Yeah, look, young nigga, I got so much old money on my mind. I'm writing music, smoking, drinking, probably fucking every night. I'm clocking in because you know I need that rolling on my arm.
What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Rabbit here, back with a brand new video. So today, as you can tell by the title and thumbnail, early playoff prediction. Early top 8 in the East. It's going to be a lot of hot takes, a lot of questionable things will be said from my mouth. But the East got better, man. And some of these teams, in my eyes, just didn't. So to start things off, we're going to go with the 8th seed. And that's the Boston Celtics. I don't see exactly what they did. Sure, adding Josh Richardson is ideal. Yes, credit to his defensive ability. Apparently, Brad Stevens wants to move Marcus Smart. So that's a toss-up in the air to see if he's going to be on that roster to start the regular season, if he will be the starting point guard. We just don't know exactly what's going to happen with this team. But not having enough depth is their problem in my eyes. Grant Williams cannot, be that backup four. If anything, maybe move Enes Kanter behind Robert Williams and run Al Horford at the 4. That's probably your best bet. But there's just too many problems and too many things wrong. As well as the new coaching staff, we'll kind of see exactly how he's going to motivate and try and influence the players to play and execute the way that they want to. And maybe I get shocked. But in my eyes, they have to be number 8. And there's just no doubt about it. Let me know. Let me know in the comments what your guys' predictions is for the East. Maybe it's different. Maybe we got something similar, but I'm going to go with the Boston Celtics being number 8. Moving forward, we're going to go with the 7th pick, or not 7th pick, sorry, with the 7th seed in the East. As questionable as this is, I was talking to some IRLs just before recording this video to kind of see where their heads are at. And it's somewhat similar to where mine is. Originally, I put this team at 6, but after kind of breaking them down and really looking at all of these other teams in the East improving by making big free agent signings and adding to their roster, I think with questionable decisions in the postseason run from their head coach, with the main factor being their point guard and not knowing if he's going to be in that uniform or whatever the case may be, I ultimately will have the 76ers at 7, and I know they were the first seed last year, and I know this is a huge drop-off from number 1 to 7, but with the idea of Ben Simmons potentially not being on this roster, with the idea of Ben Simmons not being able to, and honestly scared to shoot the damn rock, with flipping Dwight Howard for Andre Drummond, Drummond having beef with Joel Embiid, I just don't know exactly what this team will and can do, moving forward. Personally, I feel like Doc Rivers might get fired midway through the year. I think we're going to see the 76ers struggle tremendously. One thing that, we have to look at is adjustments. If they come out playing horrible, whatever the case may be, are they going to adjust mid-game? And that's something we didn't see from Doc in the postseason. And so I don't know if they struggle off the muscle. Are they going to get into their own heads? Are they going to just be like, damn, bro, we pretty much lost this game? Like, I just don't understand what is going on in Philly right now. Credit to them for bringing Danny Green back. I mean, he's a nice 3-and-D type of player. But in my eyes, yes, their starting lineup is great. But their bench and their depth is very questionable, to say the least, especially with all of these other teams in the East making the moves that they did and improving their team, dramatically in that sense. Moving on, we'll go with the 6th seed. And so let me say something really quick about the 6th, the 5th, and the 4th seed. These 3 teams that I'm about to say could be intertwined or switched, every now and then. So I'm going to give you the 6th team right now. But this team could easily be a 5th seed, could easily be a 4th. So I think this team that I put at 6 could easily fight for 4th or 5th in the East. So it's just, I didn't know where else to put these three. These three were extremely difficult for me. But I like these squads. And so with that being said, number 6 in my eyes, even though they added, Kemba Walker, and obviously the New York Knicks, even though they added Kemba Walker, added Evan Fournier, brought back Derrick Rose, brought back Nerlens Noel. You finally get a healthy Mitchell Robinson, brought back, pretty much everybody. Re-signed Julius Randle to a 4-year, $117 million extension. Drafting Quentin Grimes. The team has potential to be a 4th seed, maybe even a 3rd seed, I would say. But right now, I'm going to leave them at 6 for the sole purpose of, and I mean this with no disrespect, Kemba Walker's health. That was the main reason why you saw a huge decline in Kemba Walker's game, is because he was battling those knee injuries. His knees started giving out. And I'm praying that we can see a healthy Kemba Walker and we start seeing a Charlotte Kemba Walker all over again. I'm hoping we can see the Kemba Walker of the past with this move to Madison Square as he's coming home. You know what I'm saying? He's finally able to play in front of his family and all of that good stuff. So I'm hopeful that the Knicks can finish 4th or 5th. But because of the questions with Kemba Walker's health and ultimately Mitchell Robinson and just this team in general, I think I'm going to have to leave him at 6 for now. But I can for sure see them 4th or 5th because at the end of the day, Tibbs is a phenomenal coach and he's going to try his absolute best and set them up the best way he can to win ball games. So I think we can all agree that we all love Tibbs, but with that being said, we're going to move on to the 5th seed. And in my eyes, I had them at 4, but then I dropped them to 5 because it's like I don't know who or where to put them. I think this team battles with New York. This team battles with the 4th seed and can potentially finish 4th. But I'm going to put the Chicago Bulls here. I definitely hyped them up a little bit in my recent video or my previous video. I love Lonzo Ball truly. Huge Lonzo fan. I love the Alex Caruso signing. I love the sign and trade deal for DeRozan. My problem with this team is that they're missing either a 3 or a 4. Now you have Patrick Williams, obviously, and he can play either role. My problem is who is going to be that backup, to be that backup 3 or that backup 4. I think with Paul Millsap being out there available still in free agency, maybe see if he can take a little contract cut, see if he can, maneuver his way onto this roster. With losing Thaddeus Young, I think it was a huge loss for their bigs, for Chicago. But if you can land a Paul Millsap type of player, because there's not really that many free agents left in that regard that I feel the Bulls can afford because they've spent so much money on Caruso, Alonzo, and DeMar. I think trying to see what Paul Millsap's head's at, that'd be a good fit for the Chicago Bulls, and ultimately could potentially put them as a 3rd seed, maybe even, I wouldn't say 2, but they could make a good little deep push in the postseason this year. But I have them at 5 for the sole purpose of, they'll be battling between the 5th or the 6th seed in New York and the 4th seed that I'll mention right now. With that being said, though, before we get into the top 4, if you guys haven't already, drop a like. Wow. Hit that like button, drop a sub, join the family. You know what I'm saying? I would appreciate it. Road to 500 subs. I love you guys to death. I'm grinding my butt off for you guys, so I hope you guys appreciate it. And, hey, man, if you guys are watching this right now, I will be live on YouTube shortly after this video goes live. So maybe I'm already live. Who knows? You know what I'm saying? So hit that sub button, drop a like, and let's get right back into the freaking, regular programming. With the 4th seed of the Eastern Conference, I got ultimately the Atlanta Hawks, finishing 4th yet again. And now that I've finalized the 4th, 5th, and 6th, I think these 3 teams between Atlanta, Chicago, and New York will be battling like tooth and nail. I think these 3 teams will be a game, or if not, will be tied with the same record, and somebody will have to hold that tiebreaker. I don't know who ultimately will hold it, but I think these three teams will be very close in the standings this year or this upcoming year, and it'll just be a battle down the stretch. I think those last 4 or 5 games will be the difference maker for these three teams, and where they place, in the East. But to talk about the Atlanta Hawks, ultimately we saw John Collins. We talked about it yesterday. John Collins got that big contract extension, as well as ultimately Trae Young. You bring in a Gorgui Dieng, who has the ability to basically perform like Clint Capella in the sense of rebounding, but is different offensively. He can shoot the damn three ball pretty well and just spot up and be that 3-point shooter that they need if somebody's off that night. If Trae Young is off, if Gallo's off, if Kevin Huerter's off, whatever the case may be, you bring in Gorgui Dieng because Onyeka, right now can't do it. You bring Gorgui Dieng in, have the ability to just spot up in the corner or on the wing, whatever the case may be, and hit the shots that they need from him. And so his signing, I think, will be a huge impact or a very sleeper signing for this squad moving forward. It'll be very interesting to see how and what they do, because if they do lose Lou Will, right? Let's say they do lose Lou Will. You have Kevin Huerter to come in behind, Bogdan. Is Kevin Huerter going to come in behind Bogdan, or will they adjust their roster to where they move Cam Reddish to the 2, Danilo to the 3, and then Onyeka to the 4 and Gorgui to their second string 5? I don't know what they're going to do, but they have a good roster and a relatively deep roster, to say the least, that I'm excited to see the Atlanta Hawks come out and prove yet again that they're the truth, that this last season was not a fluke, that they're here to they're really able to ball. They're really going to prove a lot of people yet again that this team is their sky's the limit for them. You know what I'm saying? They're young and they're going to be able to ball, especially with Nate McMillan as their head coach. I think he's a phenomenal coach. I think the Pacers really messed up firing him, and ultimately he got the opportunity to help Atlanta do what they did last year, and I think we're going to see, if not the same, or maybe even an improvement from them this year, moving forward. So, with that being said, the third seed, as biased as I guess you will say, because I know a lot of people are going to say you're just being a biased fan. You can say whatever you want. In my eyes, I think the Miami Heat will finish third. You know what I'm saying? I think we improved our roster, not slightly, greatly. We lost Trevor Ariza and we brought in PJ Tucker. PJ Tucker's, you're not expecting him to shoot the damn ball at will. You know what I'm saying? What you're getting from PJ Tucker is what we got from Jay Crowder 2 years ago, what we got from Iggy, what we got from Trevor Ariza, and that is strong defensive presence. I mentioned it yesterday. I'll mention it again. PJ Tucker's defensive mind is absolutely insane, and I think, truthfully, we'll be able to help Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson, their defensive ability, help improve them and, develop them as much as he possibly can, as well as giving KZ some tips. I think having KZ Okpala being able to be in that rotation will be huge for our roster, because him and Gabe Vincent, as well as Precious, as much as we love Precious, he just won't be there. I think they will be they'll have the ability to be impactful if they get minutes. You know what I'm saying? I love Markieff Morris. I know, like I said, a lot of people want Marcus over Markieff, but Marcus Morris is just like PJ Tucker, except Markieff can shoot just a little bit better. And so I expect from the 4, both of them will have PJ Tucker starting, Markieff in the middle getting those minutes, and then PJ Tucker ultimately closing out and locking up the players that, he gets matched up on. Any assignment he gets, I believe PJ Tucker will have the ability to stop and get stops on those players. This team is set up to be great. We obviously get Victor Oladipo in February, like I mentioned yesterday. That's the latest we get Oladipo. So to think that Oladipo will be, either off the bench with Tyler Hero, Markieff, and Dwayne Dedmon, or even implemented into the starting rotation. Whatever the case may be, having Victor Oladipo back late February to finish out the season will be huge for this roster. My only issue is I think we either need to go and get another big and drop Bam to the 4, and then maybe drop Markieff to the 3, or whatever the case may be. But I think we either need to get like a Paul Millsap type of player, or look at another potential like center who can be a similar to Dwayne Dedmon, like I mentioned yesterday. There's just so many things that we need to do with our bigs that, are questionable if you want to really look at it like that. But our front court is absolutely good. I believe in our team right now on that side of the ball. What I think we really need to look for, other than that maybe, backup big, is a point guard. We need a point guard behind Kyle Lowry. I don't think Oladipo will be in that, space to be the backup point guard, although he was, labeled as that, I believe, last year. He was a backup point guard when he came to Miami. And so it'll just be very interesting, to say the least, as to what we do if we're going to acquire another, potential backup point guard, or we're going to give that to Tyler Hero to take on the reins and then ultimately put, Victor Oladipo at the 2. Excuse me. But this roster, I think, adding PJ, Markieff, Kyle Lowry, obviously, is going to be huge. And I'm excited to just watch Miami Heat basketball. So we'll see. I have them ultimately finishing at 3, in the East. A lot of people are probably going to say that I'm biased and hate on that, but that's just where I got the Miami Heat finishing. Number 2, I think we have to, even though they didn't make any crazy moves, all they really did was add Rodney Hood, brought back Bobby Portis. You lose PJ Tucker, but was he really, he's not going to be that influential for you because you'll get Dante DiVincenzo back. You brought in George Hill. So I think you have to respect the defending champs ultimately with the moves that they did. Rodney Hood is a good player. I like Rodney Hood a lot. I think he'll be able to do his thing off the bench whenever he does, in fact, play. But this squad, you're running it back, losing one person. There's no doubt in my mind the Milwaukee Bucks will potentially be back in the Eastern Conference, taking on the Brooklyn Nets. I think those two teams will continue to battle it out each and every year in that Eastern Conference. This past season, unfortunately, they dealt with injuries. Number one, the Brooklyn Nets dealt with injuries, number 1. Number 2, they met in the second round. I don't think we're going to see that again. My assumption would be that the Nets finish at 1, the Bucks finish at 2, and we'll see them in the Eastern Conference Finals. And, whoever wins that, ultimately, we'll see how they do in the finals. But enough talk on them. Praise and congratulations again to the Milwaukee Bucks. You're running it back. You kept Bobby Portis on a very nice contract. You brought George Hill back. You acquired Rodney Hood. They did what they needed to do. You're going to get a healthy Dante DiVincenzo. And so you'll have your ability from your shooters and your defenders to do what what you guys did last year ultimately. And so I think we'll see somewhat of a similar year out of Milwaukee. And so I'm not too surprised or shocked with that, in that regard. Moving on, ultimately, like I mentioned, the Brooklyn Nets. I think a healthy Brooklyn Nets squad, as well as adding Patty Mills, was huge for this team. I think as long as they stay healthy, there's no doubt in my mind that the Brooklyn Nets will win the NBA Finals. Like, this team, in the sense of, and I don't want to make this comparison because honestly the Brooklyn Nets have better superstars, but in the sense of Kevin Durant, when he joined the Golden State Warriors, they didn't have that strong of a bench, but they were still able to win games and ultimately win rings. And so I think having Bruce Brown, Blake Griffin, Patty Mills, and the rest of that cast, I think if you go 8 or 9 deep, they'll have the ability to win, a championship. They just have to be healthy. If the Brooklyn Nets can stay healthy, there is no doubt in my mind this team wins an NBA championship. If not, we might have to look at the Los Angeles Lakers and, the moves that they did this offseason, like I said yesterday. But other than that, that's kind of just going to wrap everything up. I think the Brooklyn Nets will be number 1 by, I'm not going to say by a mile, but should be the team that wins the East and comes out. I think the Milwaukee Bucks are going to continue to be as dominant as they are. I think the Miami Heat improve and show people that, this isn't a fluke. This wasn't a fluke, that bubble run. You know, Duncan and Tyler had just bad years. And so I think we'll see what we're used to seeing with the Miami Heat as of the last year or last 2 years or so. The Atlanta Hawks, Chicago Bulls, and New York Knicks, those three teams, you know, made some big moves. Well, in the sense of the Bulls and the Knicks did. The Hawks just retained their team and added a big man that I personally do like. And so I think those three, like I said, will be very close. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe the Heat fall to a 4 or 5 spot and the Atlanta Hawks, Knicks, or even the Bulls take on that third spot role. But we're just going to have to see how that plays out. With the 76ers, my question, Ben Simmons and Doc Rivers' coaching ability. Those are my two biggest things for that team. You can say, bro, Ben Simmons is a regular season player. Fine. Let me see it then. You know? Let me see him bring that to the postseason. You know what I'm saying? Last year, there was way too many miscues, way too many bad decision-making by Doc, obviously, as well as Ben Simmons. Adding Andre Drummond, replacing him with Dwight, you know what I'm saying? Like, you replace Dwight with Andre Drummond. What we saw from Drummond in LA is not something what we saw from Dwight in LA and from Dwight in Philly. So I don't know, especially with his beef with Joel, I don't know what Drummond is going to be able to bring to this team. And so we'll see what the 76ers do. I know a lot of people are probably going to be mad at the fact that I had them drop so far, but that's just where I got them. And with Boston, you know, there's too many questions about Boston. But if you guys also want to see what my final prediction was for the regular or for the rest of the East, this was exactly that. I have Washington at 9. Washington and Charlotte, I think, will be tied at the end of the year, and Washington having that tiebreaker. Indiana at 11. Toronto at 12, 13 Orlando, 14 Detroit, and 15 Cleveland. I wouldn't be surprised if Toronto maybe gets ahead of Indiana, to be honest with you. But it's very questionable. These teams, like, they made some moves, but the Wizards, if anything, out of all these other teams, made the most moves to improve their roster. And so I think the Wizards even have a chance to play again, you know, to replace the Boston Celtics or whatever the case may be. So we'll definitely have to see, but this is kind of how my entire East panned out. And, yeah. Let me see, you know, let me know in the comment section what you guys got. Who do you guys have making the playoffs? What are your guys' predictions going into, you know, the NBA regular season? I know this is a very early prediction. Maybe in a couple months or right before the season starts, I'll do another one and see after all of the moves that are done, maybe even rookies performing to be on that roster, whatever the case may be, it'll implement or impact my decision, but we'll see. Other than that, again, if you guys haven't, hit that like button, drop a sub, join the family. I'll be live very soon after this video is done, or this video is uploaded. So if you guys want to stop by, say what's good, I would appreciate it. You know what I'm saying? Other than that, it's been your boy Rabbit. I love you all, and I'm out. Peace.